Good afternoon, everybody. Pigskin Pete here. Happy Monday to everybody. Hope everybody had a great weekend. I'm going to talk a little bit about some Georgia Bulldog personal feelings, prognostications. We'll look at their schedule, do all that fun stuff. Before I do any of that, I want to go ahead and get this out of the way. So I did a contest during the NFL Draft live stream where anybody that donated Super Chat money will be entered in the drawing to win this pair of gold metallic headphones here. And again, disclaimer, these are not Beats headphones. They're not Bose headphones. These are probably about $60 headphones retail. But I have listened to them. My wife has a pair of these and my son does too. And they do have good sound quality. Anyway, so anybody that entered $1 into that was going to get one entry into it. And we had, I believe, 4 entries. We had Zach White, Vodka Drinker, Melissa Stallings, and Dondre Crawford. So, just like I did last time, I'll make this quick, guys. I cut up all the names, put them in here, and I'm going to do the drawing now real quickly. So let me mix them up here. I won't look. Mixing them up. And then I'll just go in and grab one. And it looks like we have Vodka Drinker. See that? VOD, that's for Vodka Drinker. Is the winner. So, Vodka Drinker, what I need you to do, sir, is, I don't know if, I think you might follow me on Twitter. I hope you do. If not, follow me on Twitter, at Pete Pigskin on Twitter is my Twitter handle. You might be able just to search Pigskin Pete and find me that way, too. I don't know. Follow me. I'll follow you back. Send me a direct message giving me your address, and I will ship this out sometime this week, so you should get it sometime probably next week. So thank you, Vodka Drinker, and all the other people who donated too, and congratulations to Vodka Drinker. Also, real quick, Border Bob. Border Bob has now been a Patreon member for 3 months, which means I'm going to be sending him a T-shirt of his choice, and I know he's a Clemson fan, so I'm going to send him a Clemson T-shirt. I have his address, I believe, through Patreon, but Border Bob, what I need you to do, sir, is I need your shirt size. So you can leave it in the comment section or on a personal message on Twitter or whatever you feel comfortable with. Just let me know your shirt size so I can go ahead and order the shirt and get that out. And by the way, thank you for your support and everybody else who's on Patreon as well. All right, now let's get into it. So what I do here is I get a lot of questions in DMs on Twitter. Twitter's been a good tool for me that way because it's one thing that, you get a lot of stuff in the comment section too of the videos. But Twitter's 24 hours a day. The videos, the comment sections die down after a week or so of a video being posted, for the most part. But Twitter's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and people send me all kinds of questions. They'll just be like, hey, what do you think about Georgia this year? And that's a loaded question. I can't answer a question of what do I think about the Georgia Bulldogs this year on a tweet. Like, when people ask me questions like that, I appreciate the question, but I need to get into it more than just saying I think they're going to be good. Like, it sparks something in my mind. Anyway, a lot of questions about Georgia. A lot of questions about do I think they'll be in the playoffs this year? Do I think they'll win a national championship in the next couple of years? Do you think that they're overrated? You go down the list, and this doesn't just go for Georgia. This goes for a lot of different teams, which is great. That's the whole point of this YouTube channel and my Twitter channel. Handle, whatever, is to have people from other fan bases engage with me, and that's what it's for. So I don't want to discourage people from doing that. As a matter of fact, that's what inspired me to make this video today. So after thinking about it and looking into it just a little bit, not too much, the first thing is there's a lot of similarities in my mind. I feel a similarity between the Clemson fan base, because that's what I am as a Clemson fan. I'm not an expert on X's and O's or whatever. Fandom. I draw a lot of similarities between the Georgia fandom and the Clemson fandom, especially in my life, especially over the past 38 years or so, since 1980, which just so happens to be the last time the Georgia Bulldogs won a national title. Now, I was always under the impression that that was their only national title, the same way that the very next year Clemson won in 1981. So there's similarities there that they were both in their prime of their program's history, really, right around the late 70s, early 80s time period. And they played each other every year in that time period, too. But anyway, I guess Georgia claims another national title at some point in the distant past. I don't care, whatever. That doesn't matter. The last time they won a national championship, 1980. And before Clemson won a national championship in 2016, their last national championship, and only national championship really, was 1981. So there was that drought there. And I actually, after Clemson won that first national title, I even came on YouTube and said that I sort of hope that in the near future that Georgia wins a national championship so that they can feel the way that I felt in 2016. The first time in my life that I can remember my team winning a national championship. And it was an unbelievable feeling and day and weeks following that. And that's something that Georgia fans are in for a treat for if they do win one. So we'll start there. Do I feel like the Georgia Bulldogs in the next, say, 2 to 3 years, we can go further than that if you want. Listen, do I think they're going to win a national championship in the next decade? Yes, I do, as long as Kirby Smart's still there. So we'll get that out of the way. I'm talking more recent, 2 years, 3 years, maybe 4 years, maybe this year. Anyway, within that time frame, do I believe that the Georgia Bulldogs will finally knock the monkey off of their back and win a national championship? The answer to that is I do believe that they have a better chance of doing that than not doing it. Still going to be very tough. Listen, the Alabama wall and now what you want to call the Clemson wall is what they're going to have to go through. And that's not a knock on any of the other teams they play, whether it's Florida, Tennessee, whoever else in the SEC, Texas A&M, LSU that has illusions of grandeur of winning a national championship in the next few years. No, it's no knock on you. It's just that out of all of those teams outside of Alabama, I believe that Georgia is at the forefront of that movement. That's all. I just believe they're tiny step further ahead than the rest of those programs in achieving that next national championship for anybody not named Alabama in the SEC. That's it. So the answer is yes, I do believe they will. And I also believe that as long as Kirby's there and continues to build what he's building and recruit the way that he's recruiting, listen, we all know it's just a matter of time before Saban hangs it up. That could be 2 years, 5 years, 8 years, who knows? We don't know. It's going to happen sooner or later. I mean, listen, Kirby Smart and Dabo Swinney and these guys are 20-something years younger than Saban is. So he's not coaching for another 20 years. If he does, it'd be a minor miracle and a physiological feat of all time. So anyway, yes, my answer is yes. I do believe they will. Now let's look at their schedule for this coming year, because that's really what most people care about is this coming year. You know, it's fun to project 2 and 3 years ahead, but it doesn't really mean anything. All right, so I can already know I'm going to piss some other people off with this. My predictions, and listen, these are just my predictions. And my predictions are about as good as yours. They mean nothing. All right, but anyway, week 1 they play Vandy. All right, so listen, no disrespect to Vanderbilt, but come on. All right, so Georgia's 1-0 at that point. Number 2, week 2, Murray State win. Week 3, Arkansas State win. So that's basically no offense again to Vanderbilt, but 3 teams that they should have no problem beating. And so there'll be 3-0 after 3 weeks. Week 4 is interesting. Notre Dame travels to Athens in a rematch that happened a couple of years ago that Georgia won a very, very close game, actually, in South Bend. So I think this is going to be a good game. All right. Now, I think Georgia's going to win the football game. And I think Georgia's going to win the football game mainly because it's in Athens. The secondary reason I believe that Georgia's going to win this football game is because I think that Georgia's a better football team than Notre Dame right now. Now, it might not be a huge separation there, but listen, the home field advantage and the fact that I just believe that they're just better overall in general right now, then I'm going to give the edge to Georgia. So I say Georgia wins that by a touchdown or 10 points or so. So then they're 4-0. Then Georgia at Tennessee. Tennessee clearly getting better, recruiting better. still, I'm going with Georgia here, even though it's in Tennessee. Then South Carolina at Georgia. Georgia. I'm not going to even pontificate on that. Kentucky at Georgia. Georgia. So going into the Georgia-Florida rivalry game, what is that? The largest cocktail party, whatever, outdoor cocktail party, whatever they're calling it now. I don't know. I don't care. Georgia, in my mind, will be 7-0 going into that game. And sorry, Florida fans, but I believe that, although Florida is taking steps forward the same way that Tennessee is, I still believe that you're still a step behind UGA at this point. So I'm giving the edge to that neutral site game, right, even though it's in Florida, to UGA. So that's 8-0. Missouri at Georgia, I'm giving that to Georgia. Georgia at Auburn. For some reason, Georgia always struggles at Auburn. And Auburn is such a hard team to figure out. I just never know what the hell they're going to do, ever. I mean, they're one of the hardest teams to research, too. Or at least even get a gauge from the fan base about how they're going to be. Because they talk about every year that goes by, no matter who the quarterback is, they think he's the Heisman winner. Even if he's never started before. That's how good he is. And they have the best running every year. What running backs do you have? Oh, they're the best running backs in America. Well, how about your defense? We have the best defense in America. And it's like, well, all these things can't be true and you still lose 3 and 4 games. So which one is it? So this is a tough one to pick, especially since it's not happening till when? November the 16th. I mean, we're talking, that's a long time. A lot can happen between now and then with injuries and all kinds of stuff. But I'm giving the edge to Georgia. Just in the recent history, Georgia's owned Auburn. And I have no reason to believe that that's going to change this year. I don't care if this game's in Auburn or Athens or on the friggin' moon. I'm still going to say it's going to be Georgia win this game. Next on the list, Texas A&M. This is an interesting game. Very interesting game. This game's in Georgia. Now, being that their next and last game of the year after the Texas A&M game is going to be against Georgia Tech, their in-state rival, if that's what you want to call it. If I pick Georgia to beat Texas A&M, that means I'm picking Georgia to go 12-0. Now, I'm not going to pick Georgia to go 12-0. I'm not going to pick Georgia to go 12-0 in the SEC. I'm not going to pick Georgia to go 12-0 if they were in the ACC. I'm not going to pick Georgia to go 12-0 if they were in the Big Ten. I'm not picking Georgia to go 12-0 if they're in the Big 12. I'm not picking Georgia to go 12-0 if they were in the Pac-12. And that's not because Georgia can't do it. It's because I don't pick anybody to do it. Ever. Even Clemson. Never have, never will. So, being that I think they're going to beat the ever-living bejesus and snot out of Georgia Tech, it's only right for me to say that I believe that this is where they catch their loss. Texas A&M goes to Athens, beats Georgia in a very, very close game, maybe a field goal or something of that nature. Now, they may not lose to Texas A&M. They may lose to Auburn, or they may lose to Florida, but beat Texas A&M. Anyway, my projection overall is that Georgia is going to have an 11-1 regular season. That's as far as I'm going to go with this. Because trying to predict whether or not Georgia is going to beat Alabama or whoever from the West they play in the SEC championship game is a fool's errand. And clearly, the winner of the SEC, whether they have 1 or 2 losses, is going to make the college football playoff. End of story. Period. We've learned that from the past. The best thing that people can hope that hate the SEC is that there's not 2 teams like we had a couple of years ago. If there is 2 teams, Georgia will be one of them. End of story. That simple. Now, this rise of Clemson has really affected Georgia in a way. You know, maybe some people, certainly Georgia fans know this, and Clemson fans know this. But the University of Georgia, the Athens and Clemson, okay, the 2 towns, the 2 college towns, 2 universities, are closer together than Clemson and the University of South Carolina are. It's about a 90-mile drive from Clemson to Athens. It takes a couple of hours to get from Clemson to the University of South Carolina. So it's about halfway, really. Maybe not half, but anyway, it's a closer thing. So they're recruiting the same people. Obviously, they're both doing very well in recruiting. The thing that has hurt Georgia, can you imagine? Let's put it this way. I'm not saying it's hurt Georgia because look at how they're recruiting. I mean, they're for all intents and purposes, as far as the numbers go, 5 stars, 4 stars, however you want to gauge it, they're recruiting better than Clemson. However, Clemson's winning national titles. But the thing that's really been a thorn in Georgia's side, especially over the past 6-7 years, is that Clemson is coming into Georgia, which is a hotbed of recruiting, and taking some of their most elite players that maybe would have gone to Georgia. For instance, Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence. I mean, the list goes on and on. Those are the two most notable, prolific, noticeable guys. But we've got tons of elite talent out of Georgia and Florida, but we're talking about Georgia right now. Those are players that most likely would have gone to Georgia. And then, so if you're a fan of Georgia and you're looking at this quarterback situation with Jake Fromm, and you're looking over and you're seeing Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence winning natties 90 miles away, that's got to hurt. It's got to hurt. And there's nothing that Georgia can do about this at this point because Clemson's recruiting cycle and the players it's taken on a life of its own. Now it's just a snowball effect. So there's nothing you can do about it except try to keep up, which they appear to be doing, recruiting. So anyway, there you have it. I guess that's my thoughts on Georgia as a whole, thoughts on Georgia's season. So we'll just recap real quick. I believe they're going to win a national championship here in the next 3 or 4 years, at least one, get the monkey off their back. I believe they're going to, best case scenario, go 11-1 in the regular season next year. Worst case scenario, 10-2. And whether they win the SEC championship or not will probably determine whether they get into the playoff at that point. And the future looks bright. But as Stephen A. Smith would say, if you're a Georgia player, recruit, future hopeful player, stay off the weed. Pigskin Pete, check it out.